Hi everyone, I want to talk about the Danessa Myricks Lightworks 5 palette, I Am palette. It's been out for a while. It was limited edition. I mean, it's still limited edition. Since you can still get it, I thought I'd do a video on it, show you some swatches so you can decide whether you think it's worth your pennies. So let's just quickly get into it. This is a really pretty palette. It's got a total of 18 shades. She made it sort of easier for you to travel vertically down the rows to create looks. Another thing that comes with the palette is this little plastic sheet that covers all the shades, so you can see what kind of formula they are. At the top it's called soft energy and they're meant to be the toppers. Then this is bold energy, so they're the shifters. You have the grounding energies, and those are the grounding shimmers. You can use the top row as highlighters. I literally just put them on. I've got highlighter on already, but I thought just for fun, I've put protected on this side and radiant on the other side. I just used my fingers, and that was probably a mistake because I think I applied too much, but it's a little fun experiment. Anyway, so let's talk about the formulas. So there were so many different formulas: suede shimmers, molten metals, silk press shifters, heavenly halos, fusion flakes, whip powder shifters, cushion chromes, and honestly they just make me confused. And I basically think there are two different formulas in here. One is really flaky and one is not. And when I go through the shades, I'll tell you which one is really flaky and which one's easier to work with. Another thing is this is called the I Am palette, right? So when you're using the shades, you're meant to say, I am resilient or I am radiant when you put it on your eyes. I find that really cringy. So not for me. But if you're a person that's really into positive affirmations, I guess it's kind of like fun thing to add to an eyeshadow palette. And of course I am wearing a palette on my eyes right now, and I'll show you a little clip of me creating this look later on.
I'm very sorry, but I didn't include the clip. I recorded all of the looks I created and there were lots of them, but all of the video quality was just not of high enough standards for me. Even the lighting in this video is not fantastic because I changed the setup, so I'm really sorry. Only swatches in this video.
So let's get into the shades.
By the way, there are text on screen that shows the shade description copied from beautylish.com, and honestly I found some of the shades to not be as described.
So the first row is soft energy, and they're meant to be toppers essentially, and the first shade is resilient. So resilient is basically an icy blue shade. I think there's a little subtle shift in that. It just, in some angles it looks a bit brighter, in other angles it just looks more like a white base and maybe slightly pinky hue to it. I don't think there is that much shift in this eyeshadow. And the next shade is radiant. So radiant does have more of a flip to it. It kind of shifts between a pinky red and yellow gold, so kind of a really classic multi-chrome color, and it's actually a little bit less shimmery than resilient. They do feel really creamy to the touch, and I find this kind of the pressed normal powder formula applies a bit easier with fingers for high impact, but then you can obviously just use a brush to kind of make it a bit more fluffy, kind of more diffused out. And the shade after that is called Centered. Now Centered is one of these flaky shades, so you can pick up these shades with a brush. A flat brush is definitely much better, and work it into your eyes to make it even, but it's definitely going to give you fallout, and once you work it in it's beautiful, but obviously it's going to be easier to work it in with your fingers, but then that means it's a less precise application. I'm not like a huge fan of the formula, but it's okay. And the Centered shade does have a subtle flip to it as well. It's kind of the same flip as Radiant, to be honest. It's a little bit of a yellow and pink shift, but it's a lot more subtle and it's more of a shimmery finish. And then the next shade we have is Protected. So this is again more of that creamy formula, and this has a really strong shift to it where it's kind of like a lilac pink and a bit of a pale green shift. Very beautiful, very, very pretty. And then we've got Evolving, which is kind of in the green family, and this is definitely more of a shimmery finish, and this doesn't really have too much shift to it, to be honest. It's again, it's kind of like Resilient, where in one direction it looks really vibrant green shimmer, but then in another direction it kind of just looks like a little bit of nothingness, maybe a little bit grey, a little bit white. I don't think that's really a duochrome, it's just iridescent. And just so you know, in the first row is only the shade Center, that's Fusion Flake formula, and the other formulas are Heavenly Halos formula. I do feel like there are differences between the Heavenly Halos. Some finishes more metallic, while some finishes are more glittery and shimmery. If you're enjoying the video, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment would really help me out as well. So now let's move on to the second row, which is Bold Energy, with the big circles split into 2 semicircles. And the first one is Strong. So Strong is this really gorgeous metallic blue shade that has a shift to a little bit more green and a little bit more purple. This is definitely a multi-chrome shade, and I think I do already have something quite similar in my collection, to be honest, but I can't complain. It's very, very nice. And then the next shade is Brave, which is a flaky shade, and this is again with kind of a white base, and the color shifts a little bit like a pale green at certain angles, a bit of a pink at certain angles, and a bit of a lilac at certain angles. It's really pretty, and I think you can see these shades could pair really well together. Brave is that flaky formula, and I'm not a huge fan. Okay, and then the next we've got Fierce. So I wore this the other day, and I posted it on my Instagram story. I just wore it as like a really thick eyeliner. This is a multi-chrome shade of red shifting to kind of like a greeny gold. It's a little bit on the flaky side, so I did have to be careful. I had a lot of fallout when I was using the shade, so definitely do your eyes before your face. But I managed to, you know, just use my flat brush and really going over my eye area several times to get that smooth, shiny, metallic finish. And the next shade is Fearless, which is also a little bit flaky, and it's got a kind of very pale white gold shift to a pinky sort of red and a slightly brighter yellow gold rather than just kind of like a white gold. I really do love these kind of like paler shades next to the darker shade. I think that's really cool. And next we got Loved, which is not really a duochrome. It's just a really pretty metallic shade with lots of shimmers throughout. It's got a pink base and pink shimmers and a little bit of purple shimmers in there, and kind of green shimmers in there as well. So it's just really multi-dimensional because of the shimmers, but not because of the shift. And next to it is Healed, which is a purple shade. So obviously they're supposed to kind of go together in the same family. And Healed is
a purple orchid to smoky green duochrome, and honestly in most of the lighting it just looks like a purple with a lot of shimmer particles in there. It's got green little shimmer particles, pink little shimmer particles. Yes, it does have a subtle flip, very subtle, kind of like Loved. Loved also has that really subtle flip, but you've really got to be at the right angle to see the flip, and I honestly think when it's on your eyes it doesn't have much of a flip at all. And I know that actually for sure because I have worn the shades and they don't look so flippy on the eyes. Both Loved and Healed are silk press shifters. I honestly don't get what these different formulas mean.
Next we have Inspiring, and Inspiring is kind of a cool toned lavendery silver. I guess pewter will be a good name to describe the shade. Again, it's just a straight up metallic eyeshadow. I think it's a really interesting shade because it's not straight up silver. Actually, there's one shade in the third row that's just basically straight up silver. This has definitely a cool purple tone to it, so I think it makes it more wearable because wearing straight up silver is difficult. And then we've got Abundant. So Abundant, very pretty, very sparkly, but not really much of a shift. I think maybe in some angles it looks like it might be a little bit purple, but the shift is not that obvious. It's very, very subtle. So finally we have grounding energy, and these is meant to be, I guess, kind of like a base color or like outer corner colors that help to just ground the look together. And the first thing is Invincible, which is this really flaky silver, and I'm not a fan of the formula, and this is just a straight up bright silver shade, which I think can be just a little bit too difficult to wear. I really don't know how I'm supposed to pull off silver eyeshadow. If you do, help me out, let me know. But I don't think it suits my skin tone, and yeah, I think it just can look too stark on a lot of people, to be honest. And then next we've got Unstoppable. So this is a red metallic shade, but it's quite special in that it's got lots of different shimmers in there. This is a shade I'm wearing in today's video actually, and it's got a red base, but there's like green shimmers in there, there's some gold shimmers in there, and there's some silver shimmers in there as well, which is kind of why I did a halo eye with a silvery shade in the middle. Again, not duochrome, but very creamy. It was very easy to apply with a brush. And next we've got Powerful.
So Powerful to me looks like this really kind of gunmetally plum, right, most of the time, and it does have a very, very subtle flip of this kind of bronze, red, green sort of situation. But again, that flip is really very, very subtle, and I just don't think it translates on the eyes. And really, like, on the eyes you just see that plummy color, really cool toned plum.
And next we've got Unbreakable. So Unbreakable is another straight up creamy metallic color. It is a dark mauvey purple. I think, you know, this is probably a shade that I already have in different palette. It is very creamy, very nice. And finally the last shade is Enough. And Enough is a creamy green. This green doesn't have a black base, so it's actually quite a bright green. There are other greens I own in my collection where there is more of a black base, whereas this green is just a straight up green. So yeah, here we go. This is the palette, and I think when I look at how many duochromes there are, but I think only 6 multichrome eyeshadows in this entire palette out of 18. So if you were only looking for duochrome, multichrome shades, then this palette is definitely not for you. And I just want to summarize by saying that I'm glad that I have this palette, but also at the same time a little bit disappointed. The reason why I'm kind of disappointed by it is because I wish there were more duochromes, because that's what I'm like really looking for when I'm buying the Danessa Myricks palette. And I think because the original Lightwork palettes, they were all shadows with duochrome finishes. So but I guess it's kind of my fault in that I didn't really look at the product information that carefully. But at the same time, I am happy that I have this palette because there are just so many beautiful shimmers in here, and I really enjoy using it, and I've had a lot of compliments as well when I use this eyeshadow palette. Everyone's just wondering what's on my eyes. So I would overall recommend this palette, and I hope the next one she comes out with is just going to be full of duochromes, multichromes again. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye!